Okay, things are looking good. Hello, everyone! Artemu, the Violet Wizard here. And today, we are continuing the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Last time, we managed to avenge Mikau by heading into the Gerudo Pirate Fortress and managing to rescue all of the eggs that had been taken by the pirates. And with the help of the newborn baby Zoras, we were able to learn a song that would open the way for us to head into the next temple we need to go into in order to continue our adventure. So for this session, we're going to be taking on another one of the big temples that we have to go through in this game. We can actually see it out in the distance, that big fish-shaped object out there. However, we can't go much farther into the bay without getting sent back to shore because of how terrible the water is around here. So we need to find another way of getting into there, which we shall in this session. But before we take on the temple, there is another matter that I want to get done, and that involves a certain mask we collected earlier in our adventure. So, after we defeated Goat, we were able to meet a frog up on the mountain who wanted to unite all of the frogs that would be part of a chorus in order to put on a performance. And that is going to be part of what we are going to be focusing on in this session, alongside dealing with the main goal of completing the next temple. And I chose now of all times because it does involve the next temple we're going to have to go into. So, in order to do some prep work for this session, I managed to fill up our bottles with enough medicine that I feel like would be useful to us. So we got a bunch of potions as well as a fairy. But I also went back up to the mountain and I took care of Goat again, so that the mountain would be in its spring form, as that's going to be pretty integral to what we're going to be doing going forward. Whoop, I did not mean to call this guy down, but sure, you can come here anyway. Not like it matters. There's no reason for us to talk to you during this part of the cycle. So yeah, we are going to want to go over Termina and talk to as many frogs as we can in order for us to complete this specific quest. The first of the frogs you can find is here by the laundry pool. Ah, Don Giro, it's been so long. What has brought you all this way? Could it be? Has spring finally come to the mountains? That look, it's true. Winter was so long I began to lose all hope. I understand. I shall head for the mountains immediately. And that causes that guy to head back up to the mountain. So I don't believe you need to defeat Goat in order to talk to the frogs, in order to send them back up the mountain. They will eventually return to that spot after you have defeated Goat, as long as you manage to talk to them once. But now that we've talked to that frog, we're going to want to head back to the Southern Swamp, just outside of Woodfall Temple, as this also has something we're going to want to look out for. While we're in this area, just based on something that we're going to be doing in a bit, might be a good idea to buy a magic bean. So, we're going to do that by talking to this guy. Just kind of thinking of all the different things that we want to do in this session. And specifically regarding some of the things we still have to do in Great Bay. But yeah, I feel like buying a magic bean is going to be pretty good for us. Now, what we need to do here is navigate the swamp here. In your Hylian form, you would be able to just swim through the water here, but you can move much faster in your Zora form, because we're tall enough that we can actually run along the bottom of the ground here. We could also try to go up onto this flower in order to read this sign. Deku Palace ahead, beware of Octoroks. Yeah, we actually don't really need to worry about the big Octos at this point. If you have the bow, you can simply shoot them in order to take care of them. But we don't need to worry about that, as there's no real reason for us to deal with those guys. But of course, I want to talk to this guy now. Ah, Don Giro, it's been so long! What has brought you all this way? Could it be? Has spring finally come to the mountains? And look, it's true! Winter was so long, I began to lose all hope! I understand. I shall head for the mountains immediately! And that guy will be heading up to the mountain. Now, the next frog we are gonna have to talk to, we're gonna have to head into Woodfall Temple. Because if you remember from one of the earlier sessions we did encounter a frog when we were inside Woodfall Temple after one particular boss fight. And yeah, in between the stream sessions, I went and prepared for this by opening up the way to Woodfall Temple, so we'd be able to head into here in order to get this taken care of. Yeah, it is kind of unusual that this quest has you going back to some places that you have previously beaten. So, in order to cover this now, see that glowing platform there in the shape of Majora's Mask? So after you have managed to defeat the boss of a temple, you can return to the temple in order to quickly warp to the boss simply by stepping on that platform. Could be a nice way for you to get to relive some of the important battles that can be fought in this area. But the only boss we really need to refight during this cycle is Goat, so we're going to completely forget about Adolwa. We already dispatched with him, so there's no real reason for us to do that. Alright, so the next path we're gonna take here is I want to... So I think we need to light the fire here. Hey. It's getting a little tricky to do it at this angle, but we should be able to do it if we're closer down, maybe. Also, important to note, you do not need to recollect the stray fairies as long as you manage to acquire one of the... If you manage to acquire the upgrade for the Great Fairy at least once, then you don't need to worry about that. Yeah, I wanted to raise this back up, because I want to ride the totem over to this end. This is going to make getting to where we need to go a lot easier. So what I'm specifically doing is we want to head back to the room where we managed to acquire the boss key, which should be just over this way. Is there anything else in here we need? So I think that should be all. Oh, whoop. This was not the right room. Sorry, bud. Alright, I guess we're fighting Donalfos again. This was not my intention. We do not have to fight this guy again. I got a little confused as to the proper sequence of events here. It's been a while since we've been in this temple, so you'll have to forgive me if the mind is a little screwy. Alright, we have to head over there. right. Alright, so let's shoot that switch so that we can raise and lower this platform. Alright, and this will take us to the path we need to go. Also, may have noticed with the current time that we're at in this cycle, we're still in the same cycle that we had managed to acquire the eggs from the pirates, so we're currently on the second day of this cycle. So I mainly wanted to do that because it just seems thematically appropriate for story reasons to get through this. Just so we can clear up all of the major events around Great Bay Temple. All in the single cycle. Although what I would obviously recommend doing is resetting to a new 3-day cycle before going into the next dungeon, because that could obviously be pretty helpful to you if you want to try and get through everything in a timely fashion. Anyway, completely talking over what we're doing here. But yeah, we want to refight Gecko in order to do this quest. It's kind of an interesting thing we gotta do here, but it's really not too bad, because Gecko isn't that tough of an opponent at this point. Just shoot him a couple times with your arrows, and we're good. And by doing that, Gecko turns back into a frog. Yeah, he's really not that bad of a guy. He was just cursed into being that form.
Ah, Don Giro, it has been so long. What has brought you all this way? Could it be? Has spring finally come to the mountains? That look, it's true. Winter was so long I began to lose all hope. I understand. I shall head for the mountains immediately. Yay!
And there he goes. Of course, I had to do the obligatory Kermit voice. But now that we've taken care of that, that is all the frogs that we can talk to in Termina, except for one. So we're gonna quickly head back to the start of this area, using our Song of Soaring, and then we should be ready to head to our next destination. Alright. So our next stop is going to be heading off into the next temple, as we're going to be here for quite a while. So what we want to do is go to Zora Cave. Whoops, I didn't want to talk to you. Alright, is there anything good we can grab over here before we head in? I managed to grab a couple good things for us. Great Bay Temple ahead. Swimming prohibited due to murky water. I forgot to mention this the last time we were in this area, but Lulu reuses the model of Ruto back from Ocarina of Time. It's kind of interesting having these two characters have very similar designs. And of course, just easier on the developers not to have to make another model. But yeah, we were told the last time we were around here, in order to play the song we learned from Lulu's babies to Lulu. And it's actually been a while, so I kind of forget the sequence that the song is in. Let's look at those notes. Okay. Alright. There we go. So we play the new wave bossa nova. She managed to find her voice again. Survey says, show me turtle!
I slept quite well. I just realized this when I opened my eyes. The passing of days is quite quick, isn't it, Lulu? Yes, Lulu, it's nothing to be surprised at. Although my eyes were closed in sleep, I still see everything that occurs in this ocean. It seems Lulu is confused. Regrettably, there's no time for idle conversation. Now then, proud Zora warrior. The open seas of Great Bay have need of your might. Quickly, climb onto my back.
So yep, our ride into the temple involves riding on a giant turtle. What do you think of all this development? Mikau, what's going on? And my voice? What happened to me? So by playing that song, we were able to finally cure what was affecting Lulu. It's quite a nice little turnabout for her in all of this. So now we need to take our hook shot and latch onto one of the trees on the back of this big terrapin. So we're gonna ride him off into the next temple. Trust me when I say we are going to be here for a while. Alright, ladies. It's time to storm the temple and rob it of its plunder. Ah! Who'd have thought riding into a storm would have negative consequences? Great Bay Temple. Oh boy, this area. If there is any dungeon that a lot of Zelda fans, even the most die-hard Majora's Mask fans, would say is their least favorite temple in the game, it would be this one. And I can kind of agree with that sentiment. This is definitely a very, very big area, and some of the mechanics of this place can make it a bit irritating, but we'll go more into that as we go forward. You can get quite a few resources simply by breaking these barrels at the start of this area. And before we press onward, it'd be a good idea for us to bring out our fire arrows. We've got some unlit torches here by the entrance of this area. So it'd be a good idea to light these before pressing onward. Now, some main hints I could give for this area. You will want to have a good way to replenish your magic in this area, because this will be a resource we'll be using constantly throughout this dungeon. To that, I would recommend picking up some green potions, either in town or at the potion shop in the swamp. Could also highly recommend grabbing a blue potion, which you can obtain by giving a mushroom to Kotake over in the swamp. Alternatively, you could also get the Chateau Romani in order to give you an endless supply of magic for the duration of this sequence. Alright, we can see with our mask here that there is no more fairies in that starting room. Whoa, that's a huge water wheel! So this area is kind of going to get into one of the main gimmicks of this area. So that big water wheel there controls a lot in this area. And we're gonna be doing a lot throughout this place in order to be able to navigate through this area. First off, you want to jump down into the water to grab another stray fairy. Just like the previous dungeons, we have 15 stray fairies to get here, and trust me when I say you'll want to get each and every one in this area. Now we can push this over here. And by doing that, it allows the flow of water to head into that section. So one of the gimmicks of this area is, in order to progress, you need it to send water through these different pipes in order to direct them to different machines in order to help you navigate through this area. That can be quite an interesting thing. So I would definitely say it's one of the interesting aspects of this area. Wouldn't necessarily call it like the best puzzle overall, but it is quite interesting having to use water in this way, using it to power all sorts of different machinery. Yeah, we got a Skulltula over here that you can shoot and get ourselves a couple rupees that way. And that spider is also holding a great fairy, so definitely kill that thing before going forward. You can see that there is another mechanism over there that can change the flow of water. However, we're not going to be able to reach that until much later, so we're going to leave that for the time being. At the very least, we got all the stray fairies in this section, so we can just move on. So I will definitely say here, be sure to use the Great Fairy Mask, because this is a big area with a lot of twisting paths, so definitely make sure that you know where to go before you get yourself just screwed over like that. Wow, really? Stupid spider. Get out of here. God, another one there. Come on. Guys are really making me a bit sour here. Alright, so this part we want to jump onto this column of water that now shoots out of that mechanism. This will allow us to come up here. We also have this thing, but we don't currently need to worry about that. We can use that in order to stop the flow of water with this thing, but we don't need to worry about that for the time being. So we can head into this chamber. I get it. That huge water wheel is powering this thing. So we got this huge mechanism here. It's got a big turbine that is making use of the water in order to turn. And as you can obviously tell, there are some more stray fairies we can get in the turbine room. So we want to be very careful. Also, this big area will, if you jump into the pool there, the spinning turbine will obviously have a current of water that will be pushing you all sorts of ways. So definitely be careful of that. We can break open that barrel, giving us yet another stray fairy. And for this part, I believe we want to head down into the water. We can see that there is a waterfall over there. If we try to climb up that ladder, the water will block our ability to head down. So, well, we won't be able to climb up. So for now, I just want to sink to the bottom of this room, because there's something in here that I definitely want to grab. So if we look in the center of the room, there is that pot over there, right in the center. I'm being pushed away. Aw, jeez. I didn't want that to happen. Yeah, the current's too strong for us to get through even in our Zora form, so we'll have to save that for later. We You see, there's some Octoroks over here. These are some pretty common Zelda enemies, though they've only just now showing up here. And we also got Shell Blades to worry about. Yeah, you can obviously expect there to be a lot going on in this area in terms of enemies. We got all kinds of aquatic foes to watch out for. If we head through here, we should be able to... Yeah, this takes us back into the center chamber. Okay, want to try and head back down here. Want to smash this pot. And that exposes yet another stray fairy. Woo! Very good. So I believe that is all the stray fairies we can get in this part of this area. So now what I want to do is head through this way. It's got a lot of different twisting paths over here to take, and definitely be tricky to navigate. We also got a lot of bonefish to deal with. Those guys can be pretty nasty. Just attacking you while you're in the water, and they respawn very quickly, which is always a pain. Alright, so before we go forward, I want to surface over here, because there's quite a bit we should be able to see in this room. Also some things we're not going to be able to fully access until a little bit, because there's some parts that are a bit too high for us to reach, even by doing a dolphin jump. It's got some pots over there. Might try smashing those to see what's inside. Just want to check because I know that there's a stray fairy in this room. Yep, there's one. So we should be able to grab this lady. And that's the last stray fairy we can get here. We're not going to be able to grab anything else in this room for the time being, but you will want to remember those chests for later. Now the next thing we want to do is head this way. So put up your shield when you see those little hand enemies. Those guys will grab you and throw you all over the place, and they can be quite nasty. Got some more Bio-Dekubabas over in this chamber. So want to cut them down with our boomerang fins, and then apply our martial arts to smack them away. We're going to be making good use out of all of our Zora abilities in this dungeon. This area obviously is designed specifically with the Zora form in mind. But there are a few sections where our other forms can also see use, as we demonstrated before when we had to use the Goron form to break the barrels. I want to be sure to take out these Bio-Dekubabas. For one reason in particular, get out of here. So after we take care of these guys... Well, there's one more that we didn't get. This one is up here. Alright, let's cut you down from here. Alright, he's gone under the water. So let's dive on down and take him out. Another complaint I see with this area is that it can be very claustrophobic. There's just a lot of very tight corridors, and more often than not, you'll just end up swimming and banging your head against a wall over and over in this area. It can be quite annoying. Besides that, this area really isn't too bad, all things considered. I don't hate Great Bay Temple, but it is probably my least favorite of the 4 major temples in this game. Oh boy, we're already going into night of the second day. Luckily, we should have plenty of time to get done what we need to in this cycle. Alright, now this room is going to be something we want to watch out for. In the water down here, we can see that there is a jar in the water. Strike that, and that exposes yet another great fairy piece. Come here. There you are, Missy. So now we got 8 straight fairies. Very good so far. And we got some more of these guys to deal with. Luckily, they're not too bad. Oh, definitely want to go down since there's that chest there. Just be careful of these hands. Tattle, what can you tell us? It's a Dexy hand. Just be careful. Look, it's not my fault to get too close and it grabs you. Yeah, Dexy hands can definitely be obnoxious to deal with. After you manage to take them out, they will respawn after a while, so watch out for that. They remind me quite a bit of the Floor Masters as their design in Wind Waker. Just the way that these severed hands poking up out of the floor. And yeah, they are quite disturbing looking. Okay, we have that big chest over there. We might be able to get that now. Yeah. Aw, shoot. Alright, so there's something about the Bio Dekubaba that I didn't cover. If you stand on their lily pad while it's connected to it, then it will lash out at you and try to knock you off. That can be quite nasty, so watch out for that. Okay, we're on the second night already. Luckily, we have plenty of time to get through this area, so we shouldn't have to worry. Just want to quickly check. Yep, that's all the fairies we can get in this area, so pretty good so far. Just want to jump up here. We are just tall enough to reach that in our Zora form. And we can grab a pretty good item here. The compass. So not the dungeon map, so we're gonna have to get that a bit later. Alright, looking at what we can do here. That path is still a little too high. We can see that the boss key is in this area, but there isn't much else that we're gonna be able to do for the time being. So, given the process of elimination, I think we'll want to head through here. So this takes us back into the big chamber. Alright. Just want to survey this area a bit. We went through that doorway. Then there's an up path down here, but I think this is the path we had already been to before. Pretty sure there is nothing we can do in here for the time being. I mean, we could climb up onto this pipe. Oh yeah, now that we have a key, we can go over here. We just completely avoid this Bonchu. And we can head into this door. Please and thank you. Okay, this area. Definitely want to stock up on supplies here. There is a Choo-Choo in order to supply us with magic, and then we also have a yellow Choo-Choo, which when you kill will drop arrows. Alright, that should be good for us, so let us head into the next room. Oh! That's a sight for sore eye. Ew, it's all goopy. Here we got a mid-boss here inside of this temple. So this enemy is called Wart. He'll just be floating around. He has these giant pulsating egg-like things completely surrounding him. Something I could recommend is using pretty strong attacks in order to knock the eggs off of him. As I think our boomerang, the boomerang attack can knock a lot of them off and also damage the eye directly. So This is a pretty good way of handling him. Alternatively, you can also use arrows in order to dispatch of the different eggs. But yeah, the name of the game here is shoot the eggs off and then strike the eye whenever it opens. Which you can see here happens occasionally. Yeah, this guy can be quite nasty since you got all these eggs bouncing around. It's very similar in concept to the fight against Argus from A Link to the Past. So I think Ward is partially inspired by Argus. Just instead of a jellyfish, it's a big, one-eyed... I don't know what this thing is supposed to be. I mean, its body seems to imply it's, like, reptilian in nature, but it has no other features besides that giant eyeball. Yeah, it's a weird one. So before, when I was younger, my usual strategy with dealing with this guy is using fire arrows in order to knock off a large amount of the eggs. However, using the boomerang is just really good here. It's really good at being able to dispatch of the eggs as well as strike the eye. Alright, at this point we managed to knock off all of the eggs after we deal enough damage to this guy. At this point, I would switch back to Hylian form. This guy is going to be slamming himself all over the place. Just dispatch all of these eggs before we can move on to the next part of this battle. So now what we gotta do is strike this guy's eye whenever it is open. Ward is just going to be crashing all over the place. Strike him in the eye whenever he shows up. I think either the sword or the bow will do it. After enough strikes, he goes down. God, what a fight that was. I'm actually really glad that went as well as it did, because I never used the Zora form in that fight until then. It actually worked really well. And by beating the giant Cyclops, you got the Ice Arrow. Set it to C to power up your arrows. Now you can freeze enemies and objects. Now this item was quite interesting. It was an optional item back in Ocarina of Time as the prize for completing the Gerudo Training Grounds. And yeah, it really isn't that useful except in order to freeze enemies temporarily. One thing that I did notice it's actually good for is freezing some of the spiky traps that can strike you. So that is obviously a good use for it. But besides that, there really wasn't too much of a reason to acquire the ice arrows. However, now that we are in Majora, this game actually provides quite a few useful things with the ice arrows. And some very nice applications that definitely fit the overall aesthetic of this area. If you could somehow step on top of that Octorok, I bet you'd be able to climb onto that central pillar. But the Octorok's so squishy and it keeps squirming around. Gotta be something you can do. So yeah, what we can do here is use our ice arrows in order to freeze an enemy in place. So now that Octorok gets turned into an Octo Block, and we can ride this guy on up into this part. Then we can push this mechanism here. After we move this lever, now that causes the water to begin flowing through these pipes. As you can probably tell, one of the big things that we're going to be doing in this area is moving the water along through the pipes and trying to open up new paths that we couldn't do before. And now that we have the ice arrows in our arsenal, this is going to make navigating through these areas so much easier. So now that we managed to acquire our new tools, we want to head back into this area that we had previously been at before. Could you bony guys get out of here, please? Thank you. Alright. So now that we're back in this room, we can show off another application for ice arrows. So we can use them to create icy platforms in the water. So this obviously a very, very useful skill. Being able to create platforms in order to access areas that we couldn't before. Again, a very nice use of water in this area. You found the dungeon map. So now we get a full view of what this area is like. Honestly, not too bad. It's not the largest dungeon, but it does have a lot of different twisting paths before we can finally get to where we need to go. So that's kind of what makes this area so infamous among the Zelda fan base. It's just such a confusing area to navigate. Ow. So something I do want to mention about ice is that obviously you can slip on it, so be careful with that. But we can now head into this room, and we got ourselves a new enemy, a blue choo-choo. This doesn't have anything inside of it, so it's really just a blob of water. And if you're made of water, then that naturally means we can freeze you with our ice arrows and just turn this guy into a block, which we can use in order to go up onto this mechanism. I just want to be careful of this. Buddy, could you get out of here, please? We don't need no bomb shoes messing up our stride here. So now we can turn this lever in order to pump the water further through the pipes. Yeah, I'm starting to see a lot about what this area is going to entail. Just some moving water through all these different pipes in order to be able to access different parts of the dungeon after we manage to get it flowing to where we need to go. Also, just want to check this area to see if there's any... Oh, there actually aren't any stray fairies in this room. Well, I want to destroy some of the things here just to make sure that we can get a couple things. I get a few rupees. Okay. Alright, so now we've taken care of that. It should be everything we need to do in this area. We have yet another pipe around here, but we don't need to worry about that just yet. Alright, so if we can turn ourselves around over here, get past these Dexy hands, as I want to head back into that one room we were previously in. So now that we're back up here, we can see the red pipe pushing the water through there, and we can also obviously tell that this is the area where we can acquire the boss key. Let's go ahead and make some platforms in order to get across the water here. Yeah, I must say, the Great Bay Temple, I think, makes good use of the theming of water a lot more than the Water Temple did back in Ocarina. Because in that game, you were mainly using the... You were mainly just raising and lowering the water levels to access different paths. Whereas this game, we're redirecting water in order to activate mechanisms. We're creating platforms out of ice in order to access certain areas. It's quite cool. Looky here. We got ourselves another gecko. But this one is a lot more different. Gets itself all worked up and then it just runs around. I hate it. Just like last time, we can shoot this guy to damage him. Fire arrows are really good for doing damage. Okay, this phase, we want to be careful. So this guy's retreating into this giant blob of slime. If you get caught in this thing when it falls down, that can be really painful. So what you want to do is shoot the balls of slime in order to send them down. And then once Gecko is exposed, just strike at him. Yeah, this fight really isn't that bad. Just gotta watch out of the slime attack when it comes down. Because if you get caught, then Gecko will just smack the shit out of you. That's pretty annoying. Just watch out for the shadow on the ground, and it should give you an idea of where the slime is going to land. But yeah, this phase really isn't that bad. It's quite different compared to the last time we fought Gecko, but it's good to mix it up, you know? Alright, one more hit should probably do it. Oh, it's coming over there. So let's head this way. Down he goes! Alright, come here, buddy. And with that, we have managed to defeat Gecko once more. And wouldn't you know it, he turns into a frog. Yep, you have to do both Woodfall Temple and Great Bay Temple in order to complete the Donjuro Mask Quest.
Ah, Donjuro, it's been so long. What's brought you all this way? Could it be? Has spring finally come to the mountains? That look, it's true. Winter was so long I began to lose all hope. I understand. I shall head for the mountains immediately.
I do not know what voice I was giving to that frog. Oh, man. I'm sorry, I just really like doing different voices for characters, and that one was an interesting one to try. Alright, it is getting close to midnight on the second night, so we're making some pretty good progress so far, managing to already dispatch of the second encounter with Gecko in this area. And we can head over here to grab the boss key. Definitely want to do this before we move on with the next phase of this area. So now we got the boss key, we can go face the big bad at the end of this area. But before we do that, we still got a hell of a lot to explore in this area. There's still a lot of great fairies we need to get, and some more areas that we have not gotten to see yet. So want to leap back on up into the turbine room. And we can see here that there is a path that these green pipes are flowing towards. We'll want to remember that for later, but for now we don't need to worry about that. Just want to hop onto the turbine, and we want to make our way over here, back to the start. At least I think so. Actually, might be a good idea to head this way. So now that we have the ice arrows, we should be able to dispatch of this. So we got this waterfall over here, and if you use the ice arrows, that will freeze that, enabling us to head this way. Though, looking at where this pipe is going, yeah, actually, we probably will want to head into here. This area, we got some blue tech types to worry about. And, oh boy, this area. I remember this one for a number of reasons. So, we're gonna want to try to get to 2 locations in this area. For that, we're going to want to make some platforms out of the ice. So we needed to make some platforms in very specific sections of this area if we're going to maneuver where we need to. That's not quite where we need to be. So make a platform there. And yep, that should be what we can do here. So now we need to quickly bring out our hook shot, and we should latch ourselves onto that panel, bringing us up here. And that should give us yet another stray fairy. Very good. Also, at this point, we don't need Dangero's mask. You are not going to be useful for the rest of this area. And as you can no doubt tell, there are also some groupies we can grab over here. It's quite nice. And we also got to take care of this thing here. So we can see that this area is where the water in the yellow pipe is being pumped. And there's also another mechanism that we can reach here that has a green pipe. So we're going to want to head over this way using our ice arrows to make the platforms necessary. And we should be able to jump up here. And now that we can activate this device. Yeah, I think it's pretty good for us to activate this now, simply so that we don't have to worry about it later. And of course, that's the last great fairy we need in this area, so we're all done with this room. There's a couple other things I think you can grab here. I think some more rupees, but we really don't need to worry about that. Got everything we need in this area. So it's time to move on. Alright. So at this point, we want to head back into the main chamber. Now that we have managed to move the red pipes over here over to this section, so that now flowing into that mechanism. And if we hook shot over here, that causes us to land onto this water pillar, allowing us to now move ourselves onto this mechanism. So now we can push the water through here. And look at that! So now we got the water pumping up from a different direction, stopping the turbine. However, that's not what we need in order to finish this area. We now want to go to this yellow mechanism and push you to close off the flow of water in the yellow pipes. And doing that now causes the turbine to move in the opposite direction. Quite interesting, wouldn't you say? Now that we've done that, we want to head back into the turbine room. So we're going to be backtracking a little bit, but shouldn't be that bad to get where we need to go. Would you get out of here, please? Alright, then we need to ride the water pillar over here, and we should be good. I don't believe there's anything we need to worry about in the rooms we had previously been. Yeah, we should be good. Alright, so now we change the rotation of the turbine. That naturally has the turbine room spinning in the opposite direction, which is going to be good for us, as now we're able to follow the current into some new areas that we have previously not explored. So I'm getting to see another way that this dungeon really makes use of water, how you have to fight against the current at certain points in order to be able to access these different areas we need. It is quite nice. Alright, now that we have taken care of that, and we're in this room, there's quite a few things we need to pay attention towards. So namely, we want to go up on here. And this is one of the more interesting rooms in this game. So what I want to do is shoot the ice here in order to stop the flow of water on that turbine. Actually, I am going to need this platform to be higher up for what we need to do. Okay, I may have messed up a step here. So we can use our fire arrows in order to melt the ice created by the ice arrows in order to get these mechanisms moving again, which is obviously going to be necessary for us. Alright, let's ride back up. And alright, there's no platform we can get over here, but want to very quickly, while we're up here, shoot the pillar of water to stop this mechanism moving. Alright, and now this puts us over here. Okay. Looking at what we can do. So we can jump onto this, and it's got some extra reach with our Zora form. Should be able to... Oh, really? That's a little annoying. Alright, this room is going to take a little bit for me to work, just with getting this particular platform where we need to be. It isn't too bad, it just rather obnoxious if you manage to mess up a step. Alright, we should be at a good position up here. What we might want to do is... Alright, so we're higher up now, so we should be able to jump over here to the higher section of that turbine. So what we want to do is head through that door in order to make progress. However, there's some more stuff we should be able to get in this area. So if we look over here... Oh, good, we can get back up this way. So got ourselves a chest all the way out over here we can reach. So if we use our hook shot to latch on over, we can get ourselves a stray fairy. That is number 10. Making good progress over here. And we can see that there is yet another chest we can find in that little alcove over there. Sadly, that chest is really far from where we currently are, so that one is a bit on the tricky side to get. So we should be able to get to this thing. So we just jump onto the turbine here. Then... that platform is a little far. Let's get over here. Then we should be able to jump onto this platform. Ugh, really? Okay, doing that as the Hylian isn't going to help. So we're gonna have to try again. Just do this whole sequence over again, because that's what happens when you fall down. It's definitely one of the more annoying rooms of this dungeon if you mess up a step. Oh wait, that platform moves back and forth. Might actually be able to take advantage of that. Oh yeah. Yeah, that platform is now over here. Okay, good. So now that we're on this position, that should put us closer to this chest. Just about close enough to get over here. And then we can grab that stray fairy. Woo, boy. So that is number 11. And wouldn't you know it, we have yet another thing we gotta do here. At the very least, we got all the stray fairies we need, so we should be able to move on to the next room after we get back on up here. I'd say this is definitely one of the rooms where a lot of people say, this is the worst dungeon in the game. It's because you have to go through a lot of steps just to backtrack if you end up falling down. Alright, let's shoot this one down. And now that we've taken care of you, we can make our way over here. Finally. Whew. Alright, thankfully that should be the last of the actually bad rooms in this dungeon. Besides the final room, but we'll get to that later. You can stock up on magic and supplies over here, which I'm definitely thankful for, after what we've been through in the last chamber. And as you no doubt tell, there is an enemy that we can... Well, there are stray fairies we can get in this area. Before we maneuver over here... So want to jump down here. So that exposes that stray fairy down here inside this barrel. Definitely want to grab this one now before you go forward with the rest of this room, because things can get a bit tricky here. So I think that's most of the stuff we can get on the ground here, so we should be good. So now for this part, we want to not use ice. Want to bring out our fire arrows. And use that in order to bring the water down, causing this platform to raise. So yep, getting another good use of water here by maneuvering that. So that opens up the path forward, but that's not everything we can do here. So want to grab onto this platform. Let's bring the water down, causing us to go up. Yeah, it's kind of neat having these seesaw-like devices that we can use in order to move forward. Also, as you can no doubt tell, there is another green mechanism that we need to use before we can progress to the next section. Now, if we move this guy over, we should be able to reach what we need. So yep, that causes the flow of water to go forward again. You can see this bomb chew down here. Let's get over here. Ow. At least we took care of that guy. So now want to maneuver ourselves up onto this pipe and then jump down here. And of course that gives us another chest that we can reach, and this should contain another stray fairy. That is stray fairy number 13. We are almost done. And we got the green water flowing. So now we gotta get back onto here. Be nice if we could, like, circumvent the thing here. I don't need fire. Just being able to get on the other end of the seesaw without having to freeze and then defrost the water, that would be very nice. But we're all good. We have everything we need to move forward. I said we have everything we need to go forward. There we go. Let's ride the seesaw back up, and we should be good. So I believe there is only one last section we need to do before we face the big boss here. So now we are back in this room where we acquired something good. And there's only one more path we can take from the turbine room. So let's head back into here, please. And I want to head all the way to the lowest section of this area, right before dawn of the final day. Woo! Alright, so this should be the last major area we need to go through before we reach the end of this temple. You can see that there is yet another stray fairy over here. This one can be a little bit on the tricky side. So you want to make sure that you've lined yourself up with this girly. And I actually recommend using your boomerang fins first to pop the bubble. And then we should be able to go in and grab her. So that is number 14. Just one more we need, and then we are done. And the last fairy should be right in the next room. Alright, so want to head to the green pipe over here. And I'm going to use this as a platform to head on up. And just want to check. Yep, the last stray fairy is in this room. And where is she? No, she's gonna be around here. I just don't know where. But we can move this mechanism over. And that causes the water to shoot up, giving us the path forward. Alright, is there a beehive or something we can hit? Or... I have another idea on where this one is. Come on, where is she? There she is! So right here, underneath the mechanism, we need a hit. Should be able to pop the bubble with our fins. Come on, we can get you. Don't tell me that she is out of the water. Right. Okay, so for this one, we're gonna actually need to ice arrow onto the space under the mechanism. Alright, one last little puzzle involving the ice arrows before we are fully done here. Sure. Alright, now that we've done that, we should be able to go on up and grab her. Well, at least have a good vantage point to strike her bubble. There we go! And with that, we got all the stray fairies in Great Bay Temple. Honestly, not too bad. And we have everything we need in order to face the big bad of this area. So we got in the boss key. We managed to push the water column over here. It's got everything we need for this big fight. Oh boy. This is going to be an interesting challenge. I don't think there's anything else we really need to worry about. Just have your Zora mask and your arrows ready, and let's go forward. Let's dive on down. Why am I imagining Jaws music playing right now? Gargantuan masked fish, Georg. This is the big bad of Great Bay Temple, and the reason that Mikau had to die. This guy I consider the worst boss in the game. Got this big fish it got to stun using the arrows, and then you want to quickly jump into the water and strike it while it's stunned using Mikau's magic shield. This guy is quite nasty. If you stay in the water, Georg will swim at you and then swallow you to do damage. You want to get out of the water as soon as you have managed to do damage to him. Just dolphin kick back up and you're good. So yeah, the name of the game here is just waiting for Georg to stop moving and then stun it using the arrows. He will attempt to ram into the central column in order to try and knock you into the water. So be careful with that. But yeah, this fight is easily considered one of the worst fights in the entire Zelda series, just because Georg swims so fast for the water and he can just blindside you and do a lot of damage. I believe this fight's also slightly different in the 3DS version, much like some of the other battles, but we don't have to worry about that here. Quickly put on your Zora mask, buddy. Come on, he won't stay down for long. Alright, now we got him down quite a bit in terms of health. He's gonna be spitting out babies. Yeah, apparently either Georg is actually female or it can reproduce asexually. Ow! Get off me, you stupid fish! Yeah, it's no surprise that this guy's my least favorite boss in the game, and one of my least favorite bosses in the Zelda series in general. Just so annoying to fight this guy. Alright, we're able to stun him there. Let us lay on the hurt. He is getting pretty low on health, so we should be able to take him out with a few more hits. Again, we want to be careful to avoid getting bitten. Wow, I actually was able to stun him using my dolphin jump. I don't think I've ever had that happen before. But with that, this fish is fried. We get to watch him just bounce helplessly before finally expiring. Oh, man. I am never a fan of doing this fight. And thankfully, we don't have to worry about fighting him ever again. With that, we get a well-fought heart container. And you've seized Georg's remains. You've just freed the innocent spirit this dark mass had kept in prison within the body of evil Georg. Oh man, this guy. All in all, that was a pretty good run of Great Bay Temple. Besides a few moments.
Hey, listen! We want you to lend us your power. If you just leave things as they are, something terrible will happen to this world. Surely you're the only ones who can stop it. That's what Tail was trying to tell us. Help our friend. I get it. We have to help the last one. Then promise us this. You'll cooperate with us.
Now I can continue resting in peace. I too must abide the laws of ancient times and again merely watch from my deep slumber. But the evil that haunts this land's not completely vanished, Hayden. I shall depart after enjoying Lulu's voice a bit longer. I think the gods can permit that. Thank you for your help, Mr. Turtle. With you, we're able to deal with a very tricky area. But yep, we are finally done with Great Bay Temple. Honestly, not too bad. And we can even see that the massive storm around the temple has vanished. Now that we have destroyed Georg, the source of the storm that's been plaguing this area. So, before we close out this section, how about we take care of a bunch of stuff that we are now able to do now that we have bested Georg? Well, for one, if we head to the center stage in the middle of Zora Hall, we can see the rest of the band is here. Mikau, you came back safely. That's good. I was surprised when my voice turned that lonely island into a turtle. But that song you played for me, my mother used to sing it often, long ago. Those eggs were laid to remind me of that. That song was from when I was a very young child, so I had forgotten it. I put you through some horrible experiences, Mikau, but I'm all better now. Well, the town's concert's very soon. Let's start our rehearsal. 1, 2, 3! With that, we're able to help not only Great Bay, but even Mikau's band.
I guess being able to sing is a wonderful thing after all.
It sure is. And with that, we're all ready! I can't wait for the town's concert! Hey dude, what do you have to say? I'm glad I got this new song done in time for the concert. You did great, Mikau, and even without any practice. You really are a musical genius. And what do you have to say, Joppus? Hey, Mikau! That song Evan wrote sounds just like the one we played at our jam session, doesn't it? Yeah, it sure did. But yep, thanks to our efforts, the Indogogos are now in condition to be able to perform for the carnival coming up. Though, with the way things currently are in Termina, I think it's still going to be a while before we are truly ready to move on. But yeah, I think it's very interesting lore-wise that the song that we learned from Lulu's babies was a song that she had originally heard from her mother, essentially passing on her mother's legacy to the next generation. It's just a very sweet little detail that really adds a lot to the Zoras conceptually, how they're able to pass on such a concept, such as memories, to the next generation like that. It's very fascinating. There isn't any reason for me to go back into Lulu's room. I do not know why I wanted to go in here. What I wanted to do, actually, was head into the room where Mikau likes to hang. Because back in here, there is something that we're able to do. Now that we have the hook shot, we can latch onto this branch and head up to Mikau's desk. Can you read Zoran's script? Apparently we can't. But now we can. Mikau, my diary. Today, Joppus and I had a jam session. He's not good with words, but he writes great rips. Here's what I played. So this is how you're able to get the notes for being able to complete the song with Joppus. Today I had Lulu listen to my sessions with Joppus. She seemed to like it a lot. Lulu's a pretty great girl after all. Today I had another jam session with Joppus. Evan was in a bad mood because the two of us are writing songs on our own. Here's what I played. Again, we get another hint about how much Mikau adored Lulu. Evan called me over this morning. It was something about Lulu. He was in a real rush. I wonder what it could be. By the way, it seems my lucky color this week is green. And in the end, someone wearing green was able to help Mikau fulfill his dying wish. Again, just a neat little final detail before we are done with things here in Zora Hall. Really accentuates everything that we have done up to this point. But now that we have managed to dispatch of Georg and said our goodbyes to the Indigogos for the time being, there is a bunch that we are able to do around Great Bay now that the seas are going to be more tranquil. Well, besides these bonefish and like-likes that are still around here. Seriously, will these guys just get out of here? Alright, so one of the major things we're going to need to do is we have to cash in those stray fairies that we got for completing our objective over at Great Bay. So we're going to need to head to a certain area if we're going to do that. And in order to do that, we need to head up these steps here. Except just want to maneuver our way past these rocks. And for some reason, there's this big rock over here. I don't really think there's any reason for us to blow it up, but sure, we could bomb it, see what's underneath it. Oh, that does expose a hole. So if we head down here, we can find a chest. Alright, this could be good if you need to get some extra rupees. Or we can get some bomb chew. Okay, that's also good. Not really necessary for anything I want to do this session, but sure, that's also good. Alright, so for this next part, we want to take a hook shot and use it to attach ourselves to these trees over here. Get away, you. Except we just want to maneuver ourselves over here, please. Very good. Then we can head over this way. And then there's one last part we need to get to, which is right here. It's a pretty remote area that you can only reach after you've acquired the hook shot, but it's very well worth it after you've beaten Great Bay Temple to come here, because this is the Fairy Fountain of Great Bay. Let us deposit these fairy fragments.
courageous young one. I am the Great Fairy of Courage. Thank you for returning my broken and shattered body to normal. As thanks, I shall lend you my strength.
Of course, the purple fairy is going to give us one of the most useful abilities here. I feel incredible! Your defense has been strengthened. Enemies now do half as much damage as before.
Come see me whenever you're overcome by weariness.
So with that, we now have improved defense, as can be seen by the white outline around our hearts. So now enemy attacks will deal half as much damage as they normally do. Very well worth it to gather all of the different Stray Fairy pieces in Great Bay Temple. Also, I like from this angle that you can see the sea turtle there behind Zora Hall. It's a nice little detail. Okay, so before we finish up this session, there is still a lot that we can do after we've beaten Georg. So I definitely want to make sure we take care of all of this. Namely, we have some unfinished business up on the mountain now that we have managed to gather all of the frogs. So let's go head back up to the mountain village and go speak with the frog choir. And there's also something else we can do here since we managed to take care of Goat in between sessions. Let's go put on our froggy mask. So we have no need of the Great Fairy mask for the remainder of this session. We can see that the frogs are all together now. I've been waiting for you, Don Giro. Forgive me if I'm mistaken, but it looks like you've lost a little weight. As you can see, Don Giro, the long winter has ended and spring has finally come to these mountains. Let us begin our chorus. The conducting was spectacular, and all of our members rose to the occasion. This is how deeply we were moved by your spectacular conducting. And we get a piece of heart by completing the Don Giro quest. Very nice. This is definitely one of the more involved quests in the game, since it required us to go to 3 different dungeons in order to complete it. Definitely an interesting one. Alright, but now we've taken care of that. There is something new that we can do over by the lake over near the Goron's city. So just want to head over this way. And, as you can no doubt tell, after destroying Goat, the water in this area melts, allowing us to access areas on the lake bed that we couldn't do before. So we can use this in order to open up this chest, getting ourselves another piece of heart. Very good. But that's not all that we can do in this area. As you can see on the map, that there is something else that we are able to see in this area if we go to a certain part. Fairly certain. Don't know why I am not seeing it. Alright, there it is. So there's this hidden path we can see here that we normally would not be able to access until after defrosting the lake. And you get yourself 20 rupees by doing that. Very good. So that should be everything we need to do around this area for the time being. However, there's going to be some more stuff that we can do around the mountain in just a bit. but I want to save that for just a moment. Now, the next thing I want to do is something that we could do as soon as we gain access to the hook shot, but I saved until later before we get started on this. So what I want to do now is head back into Clocktown. It's going to take me a little bit to prepare for this, but trust me, it's going to be very useful to us. So after coming back into town, I want to head into the shop in West Clocktown so that we can talk to a certain fellow filled with straw. So we can see the Scarecrow over here, and if we bring out our ocarina... Oh, baby, that's a nice thing you got there. Let me hear a song you wrote on that. Just like Ocarina, we can play a song for the Scarecrow. Yow! Oh yeah, that's a nice tune, baby. By the way, I know of a mysterious song that allows you to manipulate the flow of time. Want to learn it? No thanks. Ah, sorry, that's too bad. Like to see me again? Play that song you just played for me. See you later, baby! So just like Ocarina, you can play a song to the Scarecrow in order to learn the Scarecrow song. So this song can be made up of any song that is composed of 8 notes. So as long as you keep that in mind, you should be able to come up with a little tune in order to teach the Scarecrow. So what I like to do whenever I am playing for these games, I always make the Scarecrow song the Konami code. You know, up, up, down, down, left, right. That's just a pattern that I feel is very iconic. So, now that we have the Scarecrow song, you want to head back up to Snowhead and then double back over here to this mountain path that we have previously had seen before, but we really didn't do too much in this area. But there is something new that we're able to do here after acquiring the hook shot. So I'm going to bring out a lens of truth around here. And we can see that there is some invisible platforms that we had not seen before. Those are going to be pretty important for what we're doing here. Just want to roll on over to this part of the mountain. And that exposes these platforms here. So I want to carefully maneuver ourselves over this way. Just be careful of the gway and be careful not to slip on the ice here. Now, after we take care of that, we notice that Tattle will fly over to that platform over in the middle of the mountain. So we bring out our ocarina. You want to play the song you taught to the Scarecrow. And doing that will cause the Scarecrow to appear over on that platform. And then we can hookshot over the Scarecrow in order to grab another piece of heart. Very good. Alright, now that we talked with you, the next thing we want to do is head back over to Great Bay. Specifically to Great Bay Coast. There's going to be 2 last things we're going to do in this area, and then I'm pretty sure we're going to be done here for the time being. God, I am really excited for the next session, because we're going to get to some really interesting things coming up. But trust me when I say we still got a bit to do over here. So want to have not only your Zora form ready, but also to have a bean ready. And want to head over this way to the northern section of this area. So over here by this cliff, we can see a bunch of platforms. over here. And it's going to be very important for us to get over that way. Alright, there's a spot we can go up here. So after maneuvering all the way over here, want to head to a certain spot around here. As we can see that there are some pillars that we can hookshot to. This is another area you could have done as soon as you acquired the hookshot. However, I decided to save it for later. We also have a hole down here we can go down, and that has some cows. Could be nice if you want to replenish your reserves of milk, but we don't need to worry about that. We got tons of bottles full of potions, so we don't need to worry about them. Except after checking on the cows, we can... I think we can get up that way. That one's a little too far. Don't tell me I already messed this up by trying to go down the cow hole. It's alright, we can maneuver ourselves back up here. We still have plenty of time to do this. So now we want to get up to this platform. And then want to latch over here. Then we need to drop down right here. So we can see that there is a dirt patch where we can plant a bean. Now, normally you want to bring spring water here in order to grow the bean. However, we've acquired a song that can bring water, so we do not need to worry about spring water. Simply play the Song of Storms that we learned from Flat, and that gives us this plant that we can now ride. And this will allow us to go onto this section of cliff. We can see that Tattle's pointing us over here. So want to play our Scarecrow song now that we've done that. And this causes the Scarecrow to appear over here. So I don't know if the Scarecrows in this game are known as Pierre or Bonoru, because I never see him mention that. But thanks to his assistance, we're able to get yet another piece of heart. Very good. Okay, so now that we've managed to deal with that, I just want to quickly check my notes here. So for the remaining stuff that we're able to do in this cycle, there's about one more thing that I think we can feasibly do. And this is specifically a thing that you need to do after you have killed Georg, as it will not be available any other time. So be sure to do this mission immediately after clearing Great Bay Temple. Otherwise, you'll have to go and refight Georg all over again. So we go onto this section of land over here, just past this like, and after we dealt with Georg, we can see this boat is over here. The Fisherman's Jumping Game. Please ride the boat to the Fisherman's Island to inquire about playing. So now we can hop onto this boat in order to carry us over to our next destination. No, I don't want to be in Zora form for this. Link, get out of there, buddy. So now we're going to ride the boat over here to this series of islands and want to use our hook shot in order to latch on to the palm tree in the center of the large island. So just get close enough and we should be able to go over. Oh, hey, it's the pervert. Now that the seas are back to normal, I've started a little business aimed at tourists. If you pay 20 rupees, I'll invite you to a jumping game that has a really big prize. If you're up for it, go to that island in the center. I like big prizes. Let's do this. Oh, you're up for it. Now then, I'll explain the rules, so listen carefully. I'm gonna light the torches on each of the surrounding 4 islands in a particular order. Jump to the island that has the lit torch. If you can jump to it before the torch goes out, you'll get 1 point. If you get 20 or more points within the time limit, you'll get a big prize, but it'll cost you 20 rupees for 1 try. How about it? Will you give it a try? Sure thing. Great, in that case, I'll start. So now we got ourselves the jumping minigame here. Want to very carefully maneuver yourself onto these islands. Readjust your camera if you needed to give you a good vantage point. And just want to keep going at this until you can get the top score. Something you want to note about this game, be sure to not fall in the water, otherwise you'll have to redo this all over again. Yeah, this one really isn't too bad to get the score that you need. If you do this on the final day, it can be a little tricky because you got the shaking from the moon's approach. That can throw you off from time to time, but it really isn't that bad. Just readjust the camera whenever you need to jump, and you should have a pretty easy time of this. Like, we're already close to the end of this minigame, and we still have just under a minute to do it. This really is no trouble at all. If you jump to the wrong island that doesn't have a lit torch, then you'll just have to... You won't get a point for it, obviously. And sometimes the torches will also burn out before you can actually reach the island you need to. So just be persistent, and you should be good. I need to jump over here now. We got more than enough in order to complete this minigame, but let's just try to see how high of a score we can get. We got plenty of time to get this done, so we'll just go for it. Alright, we got 25. Pretty good. 26. That's a good score to end on. Alright, that's it. Uh-oh, that was a little too easy. Oh, well, here's your prize. So by clearing that minigame, we get ourselves yet another piece of heart. Very nice indeed. And I was thinking of saving up to buy a big ship. Now it looks like I may go bankrupt. Sir, after what you asked me to go through... Nah. That seems a little too harsh to say. Even for a guy who's kind of pervy like him. But yeah. I feel like this is a good stopping point for today. We managed to dispatch of Georg, managing to accomplish everything I want to in Great Bay for the time being. So yeah, this was definitely a very eventful session. We got done a lot of what I wanted to do. Now there's still some more stuff we can do around Great Bay that we haven't completed yet, and we'll definitely want to do that in the next session. But at the very least, thanks to our efforts, Mikau can finally rest in peace, knowing that the woman he loves as well as their children are now safe, and that Great Bay will be fine, at least until we reset back to the dawn of the first day. But, you know, that's just the way things are here in Majora. So thank you for joining me in this leg of our adventure. Next time, we'll be finishing up what else we can do around Great Bay, and then we'll be making our way into the final major area of the game. Until next time, have a good day, and take care, everyone.